What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Commander video. This time we're going to be talking about the newer set that's going to come out in June, I believe, Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. This is yet another D&D crossover set, about a year after we got the previous one in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. It's all Commander focused, however, just like Commander Legends was. You can expect to see a ton of reprints as well, things that just make it easier to play in the Commander format, very specific to Commanders as well as specific to having multiple opponents. And we see the return of the Battle Bond lands. So if you were a fan of Sea of Cloud, Spire Garden, Morphic Pool, Luxury Suite, Bountiful Promenade, then you will probably appreciate that they finally got a reprint. An underrated reprint, but one that is just as important for Commander Reflecting Pool. If you like Exotic Orchard, this is basically the opposite. Any mana that your lands could produce, it's going to do the same exact thing, which if you have a command tower, there you go. So fundamentally, we're off to the right start, and I didn't know about this because I haven't been paying attention to the leaks. I don't usually go after low-res images just because of my channel. I offer 4K resolution for my videos, and the problem with a lot of leaks is that you'll get a ton of cards that are just trash, and I'm not going to go over every single uncommon, common, and rare because someone talked about it on Reddit, but we do have some pretty important information here. This is a big deal. We have the return of the dungeons, and not just the return of the mechanic and the synergy with that mechanic, but we get a new dungeon here, at least one new one, in Undercity. This is incredible because one of the limitations for the Sephra stack that came out last year, that precon, is that you only had 3 to choose from, and it felt like if we never crossed over with Dungeons and Dragons again, we probably wouldn't get any more, and that mechanic would age pretty poorly. But now that we're getting at least another dungeon and other cards that will synergize with Venture into the Dungeon, this ceiling just got a little bit higher for that option. Now, just looking over all these different rooms, we have Secret Entrance, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Nothing too crazy there. We have Forge, you could put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature, or you could go into Lost Well to scry 2, and then we have 3 options beyond that. We have Trap, target player loses 5 life, Arena says goad target creature, Stash lets you create a treasure token, and from Trap or Arena you could go to Archives to draw a card, and from Arena or Stash you can go to Catacombs to create a 4/1 black skeleton creature token with Menace. And Throne of the Dead 3, can't see the bottom left corner there, but reveal the top 10 cards of your library, put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield, and I'm guessing 3+1/+1 counters on it, it gains hexproof until your next turn, then shuffle. So this is incredible for those of you who haven't played with the Venture into the Dungeon mechanic. Let me just tell you, it's a lot easier to get through rooms than you might think. I know the Commander option lets you do it once a turn and has a limitation to that, but there are so many other cards that you can abuse, as well as the ability to bring back creatures from your graveyard. And if you were paying attention to my Commander Pickups video when I recommended Radiant Solar for 50 cents, or below 50 cents, that's the best price, you'll know that is a big enabler for the strategy, and it's still around 50 cents, folks. So if you haven't got yours yet, I would highly recommend you do it right now. It's a very low risk buy. We have another Commander option here that caught my attention because it has a ward of pay 9 life, 9 Fingers Keen. So this Menace creature that's a 4/4, which is, I think, pretty good, a human rogue, so you have other synergies there if you want them, says whenever 9 Fingers Keen deals combat damage to a player, you look at the top 9 cards of your library. You may put a gate card from among them onto the battlefield. Then if you control 9 or more gates, put the rest into your hand. Otherwise, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you are rewarded for having those gates, and the gates are basically just the guild gates from the Return to Ravnica block. We also got another one, I believe, from Guilds of Ravnica, so we have 11 total gates. We might get more gates in this set, so I'm not certain. But even if we don't, I think that's a pretty cool strategy. Menace and Protection, that's pretty good, like paying 9 life. If your opponent wants to target Keen, that's almost a quarter of their starting life total. With the Menace, you have some kind of evasion. I love this Commander option. I love the rogue synergy potential too. Since you're going to want to deal combat damage, it fits right in. We have Crag Cunning Instigator, which is a Dragon Tribal focused Commander option, which I'm actually glad that we decided to return to Dragon Tribal that isn't 5 colors and 10 mana and you gotta destroy the world with all these different colors, all these massive dragons. Just stick to blue and red. You're gonna have plenty of dragons. Flying in Haste, this is a pretty solid Commander option because if you are going to be playing a mostly red dragon deck, you're going to get some card draw here, you're going to get some goad. This is the combination of both of those strategies. Whenever one or more dragons you control attack an opponent, you go target creature that player controls, and then whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, if that creature had to attack this combat, put a +1/+1 counter on Furkrag, and then you get to draw a card. So plenty of goad in red, you already know that. Reasonably costed for a dragon commander. Not going to offer you maybe the explosiveness of the Dragon, but still pretty solid abilities, pretty solid keywords. flying and haste. I think people are going to like playing with this commander option. We get the return of Myriad. Remember this keyword? Going all the way back to Commander 2015. It was such a great keyword. It means whenever that creature attacks, you get another copy of that creature attacking each of your other opponents. And it was a very fun ability to abuse because it meant that each individual card would have some kind of ability. And I'm thinking of Blade of Selves. If you combine that with other good creatures, you would be able to abuse triggers. But this isn't for any kind of trigger that you would abuse. This makes it so that your instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and you get to cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. So if you attack with this and you have 2 other opponents, your instant and sorcery spells cost 3 less. It's very odd. It's not exactly an explosive play, but the fact that we are getting Myriad back means we could see even more. And it's such a fun ability. It's so fun to abuse enter the battlefield triggers, death triggers that you would get off of the legend rule. And here we have the introduction of a new enchantment type. We have Background, and this one's called Raised by Giants. Commander creatures you own have base power and toughness 10/10 and are giants in addition to their other types. Now I don't think this card itself is that strong. 6 mana to make a commander base power 10/10. I mean, it sounds great, but there are a lot cheaper ways of making a commander option bigger. But Background, it seems like it could be an enchantment type that is specific to commanders. And speaking of gates earlier, just looking through it right now, we have Citadel Gate. So this probably does confirm that we are getting at least 1 gate for each color, which is awesome if you're a fan of the gates. You are getting more lands that come into play tap, but the trade-off is that you have an easier way to win with Maze's End. We have a pretty good background here, I would say. Passionate Archaeologist. This legendary enchantment says commander creatures you own have whenever you cast a spell from exile, this creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. And you know Wizards of the Coast, they love anything that's red, casting from exile, getting you treasure tokens. That's been the flavor of the year so far, so easily something you could slot into a Prosper Tome-bound deck. And we have Jan Jansen, Chaos Crafter, a pretty cool gnome artificer. Having haste, I could see this in Mardu colors having some combo potential. Tap to sacrifice an artifact creature, create 2 treasure tokens. You can tap to sacrifice a non-creature artifact to create 2 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature tokens. So right there, if you have a way to untap it, I imagine you would probably be able to just tap both abilities, sacrificing the constructs so that you can get the treasure tokens, sacrificing the treasure tokens so you can get the constructs, and there's got to be a loop somewhere in there. But overall, nothing super interesting. I will say the next commander I'm going to talk about introduces something a little new. I mean, we've had the adventure spells, but we don't really have any commanders that make them good. Gorian Wise Mentor could be that commander option, a 3-mana Bant colored commander. Human Wizard, a 3/4 with vigilance, and whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. So if you remember Savin from Commander 2019, that was Wizards' attempt to try to bring back Flashback and make it strong. I loved that commander, but there were a lot of other spells that you can cast from your graveyard to make that commander work. This directly synergizing with adventure spells means that you can have a more focused strategy. Copying is always good, I just don't know how good adventure spells are going to be if we get more of them in the set. We get a pretty cool vehicle here, an Nautiloid ship. When it enters the battlefield, you exile target player's graveyard, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may put a creature card exiled with it onto the battlefield under your control. Crew cost of 3, flying, I think that's pretty solid. Going to be stronger in a vehicle-focused deck if you remember playing Shorikai Genesis Engine. Having a variety of vehicles is important, because other than that, you're just crewing for vanilla artifact creatures. They gotta do something a little bit extra, and I think Nautiloid ship does that. So anyway, going over all of those, or at least the ones I could find, while ignoring a lot of the uncommons and commons and all that bulk, I can say I'm actually excited for this set. It looks like it's going to offer enough to add on to what was already great about Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and I know crossovers, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you were going to cross over anything with Magic the Gathering, I think we all know it's got to at least be fantasy, it's got to be at least in the same realm of fantasy as Magic the Gathering, and it essentially being a sister product for Magic. It's nowhere near as bad as like The Walking Dead or Stranger Things. Even if they don't belong to the multiverse, these actually help to blend in with the game better than pretty much any other franchise. They didn't really have to go out of their way to change much about Magic in order for this to work. So if you appreciate the video, please do subscribe to the channel. Commander Void here, I will see you all next time.